Hi everyone, and I hope you all are doing great. And I'm very excited to welcome you all for my brand new video series about WSET Level 2 in wines. So, if you are someone preparing for this WSET Level 2 in wines qualification, this video series is gonna help you immensely. As well as if you're someone just want to improve your wine knowledge and build confidence on flow, this is gonna help you out as well. So basically level 2 book has divided into 4 sections and each section has its own subtopics. So basically in this video series I break down those subtopics into more easy to understand, more digestible contents. So my name is Nilantha and I'm a WSET level 3 certified sommelier, currently working as a sommelier, and I've been in this industry for last 10 years now, and learning about wines has changed a lot in my professional career and also has opened a lot of new opportunities, new doors into my career as well. So if you are someone willing to continue career, continue grow within this industry, learning about wine can change it immensely. So without further ado, let's get started. So this is the very first video of the series. In today's video we're going to understand and learn about tasting and evaluating wines. So let's get started. So when it comes to tasting, we have a specific approach given by the WSET, whether we are studying for level 1, level 2 or level 3. Each of these qualifications come up with their own systematic approach. So for level 2, the systematic approach is divided into 4 different parts: the appearance, the nose, the palate, as well as the conclusion. So following this systematic approach, we'll be able to make a conclusion more accurately, more fairly for the wine as well, right? So let's understand how the tasting room conditions should be when approaching wine tasting. So basically an ideal place should be prepared with following conditions in order to taste and evaluate a wine accurate. We know that we cannot do wine tasting everywhere that we live in. It has to be specific room, specific place with specific conditions. So for example, the lighting and clean glassware, spittoons, ISO glasses, clean palette, free from strong cosmetics, standard sample pours 5 milliliters. So basically lighting, the room where you're going to taste the wine should have like mild, the lighting condition. It shouldn't be exposed to very bright artificial lights or very strong sunlight. It should be mild, where you can easily evaluate the color of the wine without interfering with the more stronger lights behind it. And when it comes to glassware, this is very important. The glassware must be very clean, and it must be free from all the, let's say, residual detergents or any residual oily any parts that we come across in our glassware in our day-to-day life. It must be free from all of these objectives. And also we should have spittoons, meaning when we approach tasting wines, we do not swallow them, because if we continue to drink the wine, what happens? We're gonna effect with these intoxications, right? So we're gonna get effect of alcohol and eventually we get drunk. But to avoid that, each sip that we are taking into our mouths to evaluate the wine, we have to spit them out. And for that we have to use specific tools like spittoons. And then the ISO glasses. It is very important to use an ISO glasses to evaluate a wine, because it has perfect the shape of the bowler part as well as the narrow tip, and it's not that big like the normal glasses that we use to serve wines, let's say Bordeaux wines or Burgundy wines. These glasses are quite smaller, and in generally it allows us to evaluate any sort of wines. So it has right space as well as the narrow tip, which allow us to insert our nose and find out all the aromas and flavors that we detect in the wine. And the clean palate, so this is very important. Your palate must be very clean, because if you are approaching a wine tasting right after you brushing your teeth, or right after you having a strong meal, or right after you eating something very heavy, very more flavorful, it's not gonna let you detect the delicate flavors of the wine, because those flavors that you have recently tried is still lingering on your palate, right? Therefore the palate must be very clean, and then free from strong cosmetics, meaning that if you are wearing any strong perfumes or any any kind of smells that is, yeah, surrounded by this wine tasting room, it's gonna directly affect you to the limit or the prevent the delicate aromas of the wine coming into your nose, because those strong aromas gonna mask those the delicate flavors and aromas. So it's very important not to wear any strong perfumes or any aftershaves or anything like that. Even the nail polishing of the women's going to interfere with these delicate aromas of these wines. And standard sample pours 50 cl means like 50 ml, 5 cl is like 50 ml, meaning if you pour too much of wine, you won't be able to swirl the wine accurately and then find out those aromas. And if you pour too less, you're not able to swirl the wine, it doesn't have sufficient wine to walk through the glass and open up its flavors. So it must be average amount, a general amount. This is the recommended amount from the WSET, 5 cl or 50 ml. So these are the conditions of the tasting room, condition of the place, and how you should be approaching a wine tasting when it comes to tasting a wine. And we are moving on to the appearance, which is the first part of our systematic approach to tasting. So appearance, basically we are looking into the wine, we are checking the intensity, meaning the how much the wine has. Like when you pour the wine into the glass, if it's a white wine, you can clearly see through the glass. If you hold the glass onto a white surface, you can clearly see the white surface through the glass, because the white wines tend to have more lighter color, lighter appearance. And when it comes to deeper wines, you won't be able to see through the glass. When you hold the white color, the background behind the glass, and you try to look through the glass, you won't be able to see the white color surface because of the deeper appearance of the wine. So in that case, we describe the wine as a deeper. If it's too light, you can still see through, then we see it's pale, right? When it comes to red wine, so red wines are basically evaluate like we pour the glass and we are look from the top of the glass to the bottom of the glass, where the stem of the glass is attached to the bowler part, that space, right? So without wine, when you look into the glass, you can see the stem part is attached to this bowler part, right? But when you pour the wine, certain wines can still see through, but certain wines you cannot, because of the deep color. So those wines that you can still see described as pale, but those which you cannot see through, so described as deeper. So the intensity is basically how much color the wine has. And when it comes to color, whether it's a white wine or rosé wine or red wine, basically white and red. So white wines, lemon, gold, and amber, depending on the deeper the level of intensity of the wine, we describe as lemon, gold, and amber. In most cases, the white wines are described as lemon, pale lemon, medium lemon, sometimes pale gold, etc. But those sweeter wines have more deeper appearance, and those are described as a deep gold or even amber, etc. But when it comes to red wines, most of the wines we describe as ruby, because ruby is the description for the palest color of the red wine. So then we have purple as it slightly get more deeper, and then we have garnet. Garnet means you cannot see through the glass at all. The purple, but still it's identify, still you can see there is a lighter hint of the intensity, but still you cannot through the glass to the stem part. But when it comes to garnet, it's super deep and you cannot even see at all. And also when it comes to thorny, even it's deeper, it's much more darker in color as well. So this is pretty much all about the appearance, and this is how we describe the appearance of the wine and the color of the wine. So we are moving into the nose part. The large part of the pleasure of enjoying a wine comes from its aromas. You should swirl the glass and close the nose to the rim of the glass to take a sniff. So basically, the large part of pleasure of enjoying a wine or tasting a wine is come from your nose. because in the nose we detect all the aromas, we enjoy those aromas when we try. And yeah, therefore the large part of this the overall pleasure of enjoying a wine come from the nose. So first we pour the wine into the glass and then we keep swirling the wines. Basically we are trying to open up the flavors of the wine much more as it interact with the oxygen in the bowl. It keeps open up, and the more you swirl, the more you try, more you sniff, you get more flavors, right? So basically after a couple of swirls, you insert your nose into the bowl part through the rim, and then you get those aromas, right? And you continue to do so. And when it comes to WSET, this systematic approach testing, every time you take these snips, every time you're trying to detect new aromas, you keep writing them, keep noting them down, so that it helps you later stage to compare the wines from different wines, right? So aroma intensity, light, medium, pronounced. This means how powerful these aromas on the nose, right? Some wines, before even you get closer to the glass, they are open up, they are so punchy, they are very powerful, and these wines are described as pronounced. But some wines, you have to dig deeper, right? You have to put your nose inside the glass, you really have to struggle to get certain notes. So those wines are described as light intensity wines. But in between certain wines, as you get, you have more aromas coming up, those wines are known or described as medium intensity wines. So aroma characteristics is very important. So basically these characteristics are coming from three different parts: the primary, and then the secondary and tertiary characters. So basically primary characteristics are coming from purely from the grapes or during the fermentation process. So these are the flavors that we get, primary fruit flavors. Let's say if it's a white wine, we describe as, oh, this has lemon, this has lime, this has green fruit. So these are the primary fruit characteristics. If it's a red wine, we say raspberry, strawberry, red cherry, blackberry. So these are all primary fruit characteristics that are purely coming from the grape variety or during the fermentation process. And when it comes to secondary, these are the flavors and aromas that are developed after the fermentation during the winemaking process, right? We know that certain flavors like creamier, buttery, these are the aromas coming from the malolactic conversion. As well as when you try champagnes, we describe aromas as bready, yeasty, etc. So those are the aromas coming from autolysis process. So these are the post fermentation process, and these are the aromas and flavors described as secondary aromas. And when it comes to tertiary characteristics, these are very important. These are the signs of very good quality wines, and these aromas and flavors are developed after the fermentation, after the winemaking process, during the maturation stage. Some wines goes through a very extended period of aging in the barrels, and those wines tend to have like flavors of toffee, chocolate, spices, vanilla, cedar, etc. These are the flavors coming from the post winemaking maturation process. And some wines goes through a bottle aging process. Those wines tend to have aromas like petrol, mushrooms, etc. So if we try a Riesling that has been aged in the bottle for maybe a couple of years, like 5-10 years maybe, they have very pronounced aroma character of petrol, and this is a very good sign of bottle aging in a high quality Riesling as well. So yeah, these are the basic things you need to know about the nose. And then the palate. So on the palate, we're trying to detect many structural components like sweetness, acidity levels, tannins, alcohol, body, etc. So basically sweetness, we describe dry, off dry, medium or sweet. This is meaning how much residual sugar does the wine have. So if it's a dry wine, almost does not have any residual sugar, or you cannot detect them on your palate. But when it comes to off dry, it has very small amount of residual sugar from the fermentation. But when it comes to the medium sweetness wines, they have much more pronounced residual sugars, sweetness in the wine, and the sweet wines are entirely sweet in taste, and they are even produced through specific methods of winemaking as well. So when it comes to acidity levels, the contrast between acidity and sugar levels and alcohol levels. So acidity, basically a level of acid, how much the acid does the wine have, and also it is the sensation that makes your mouth more watering, like makes a lot of saliva in your mouth. And it's a very good example when you try like a Chablis, when you try like Sancerre, Sauvignon Blanc wines, your mouth literally get full of saliva, it's get more watering. So that is the sensation of this acidity levels in the wine. And also it helps the wine to balance the fruit flavors, balance the alcohol levels, balance the body, and also to preserve the wine naturally for a long time as well. So when it comes to tannin, structural component that bind with saliva and cause mouth to dry up, this is the component of the wine that makes our the mouth very dry after trying. Especially when if you try a red wine, you know this sensation on your mouth. It creates your mouth like a grippy sensation, more drying sensation, and its level of tannins depends on the grape variety, depends on the wine style. Even it get more effect on your palate as well. And alcohol contributes to the body of the wine. As per SAT, we describe alcohol in three levels: low, medium, high. So basically, alcohol contributes to the body of the wine. The level of acid goes high. The bodies tend to be more fuller body style wines, and those wines with high alcohol also produced from certain grape varieties that tend to have much more sugar in them, eventually contributing to the fuller body styles. So in level 2 systematic approach to testing, we describe the alcohol levels into three parts: low, basically below 11% alcohol by volume, and medium, meaning 11 to 13.9 percent alcohol by volume, and high means 14% and above. So body, the overall impression of sugar, acidity, tannin, alcohol, each component contributes to different elements of the wine. So basically what is mean by body of the wine is the overall expression of all these structural components: how much acidity, how much sweetness, how much tannin, and how much alcohol. So certain wines tend to be lighter bodied on our palate, and some wines tend to be fuller, more powerful wines on our palate. For an example, if you try apple juice, it feels lighter, if it feels simpler on your palate. But when you try a mango juice, it feels heavier, more richer, and more fuller on your palate. In the same way, this is the kind of idea you can get how this body of the wine can feel on your palate. And then we have the flavor intensity, and this is also very important to understand. This means how powerful the flavors on our palate. Like this is when judging a wine, how powerful the flavors on palate. Generally wines have same intensity as on the nose, so most of the wine have the similar flavors as we detect on the nose. Those aromas are directly reflecting on our palate as well. But certain wines have totally opposite. Sometimes some wines like white wines tend to be more floral notes on the nose, but when you try actually those floral flavors we do not detect on the palate. In same way, many other contrasts between the flavors and aromas. And also flavor characteristics, generally flavors on the palate should be as the same as aromas detected on the nose, yet you may pick additional characteristics which you may write down, like I said. And then the finish, this is the collective sensation of how long the flavors are lingering on the palate after the wine is swallowed or being spat. Can be short or long. This is very important. Depending on the length, depending on how long these flavors linger on your palate, you can evaluate if the wine is short, if the wine is long finish. Meaning certain flavors tend to be vanished from our palate quickly after spitting or after swallowing the wine, but certain flavors components like tannins and other sweetness levels tend to stay on our palate for longer, even after we spit them out or swallow them out, still those flavors remaining in our palate. So those wines we describe as long finish. So we are into conclusion. After all those evaluations based on the structural components, based on how long those components linger on our palate, we are on to conclusion. So this is very important to understand when making conclusion about a wine, to look into the balance and complexity. So balance is basically is the ultimate goal of the winemaker as well. If a wine is not balanced, then it does not have overall good expression on our palate as well. Then eventually we describe as it's a poor wine, or it's acceptable in quality in wines. So basically we are looking into acidity vs sugar levels, alcohol vs fruit flavors. So it has to be balanced with acidity and sugar levels in order to have the pleasant experience, as well as alcohol and fruit flavors. If the wine does not have enough fruit flavors to complement with its alcohol levels, then alcohol level feels like more burning sensation on palate. So then we describe the wine as it's not good wine, it's a poor wine, right? So complexity, this is again very important. How much of flavors does the wine have? Sometimes it can be primary, secondary. Sometimes it can be primary, secondary, and tertiary complex. Sometimes can be even only primary. Based on primary, like we know now, red fruits, green fruits, then we have citrus fruits, then we have herbaceous, etc. Even only from the primary fruit flavors, still the wine can be very complex in flavor profile because of these different flavor clusters, right? So complex aromas and flavors are desirable features in many wines, and they can come from primary aromas and flavors, or with combination of secondary or tertiary characteristics. Like I mentioned, it can come from primary or secondary or tertiary, or overall mixture of all these three different characteristics. So it is very important for us to be very fair and be very accurate when making conclusion after trying a wine, and also very very important to follow these steps of the systematic approach to tasting wines. So these are pretty much all information that we need to know, that we need to aware about when we approach a tasting wine. So I hope you have a clear understand about this subtopic of tasting and evaluation of wine, and I look forward to see you on the next subtopic very soon. And yeah, I wish you all have a great day ahead, and I'll see you in the next video. See you.